Casey has to go to Amity after this, so he's got to get out about 7, I think. So
7:50.
okay.
They can start without me.
So I will call a facilities committee meeting to order. All the board members are present, along with the superintendent, high school assistant principal Aaron Sports, and Casey. Oh, and Doug from GCA, sorry, and Lauren Small. So Casey, I don't have an agenda in front of me, so I'm going to let you talk about what you want to talk about first.
Well, I just quickly brought it up. What I'm going to do is, I don't have all my stuff with me for the beautification project. You have those right there. The high school beautification project was brought to me by Mr. Spores and Mr. McKnight. These are student projects that paintings and this kind of things that they do every year. Aaron, correct?
Yeah, the public art performance graces class.
So we've had a lot of discussions on what we feel is appropriate, what's not appropriate, as to where everything should go. We discussed a couple options for the areas that we didn't really care for. Case in point, page 2. These are the auditorium doors. They would only paint one pair of the 3 pair there. I said I think they could do something maybe around the door frames rather than just painting one of the doors, because it'll just be a constant upkeep then of paint chipping and handprints and the whole 9 yards. So they're going to get back to the administration on that one.
Do they ask for permission before they do any of this stuff?
That's what this is.
That's what this is.
Oh, they're asking permission?
Yeah, this is a picture, and then
Oh,
they
this
drew
isn't
on-
our actual door.
This is a picture of
Of
our
what they'd
actual
like to
space,
do.
and they hand drew it on the picture. So this is what it would look like.
Wow,
And
that's
when they
pretty
were done.
impressive. I'm like,
This is
so
the-
they went with the better to ask for forgiveness than permission route.
Yeah, no. This is them basically trying to show us exactly what they want to do. And I agree with Casey too. 1 set of doors, 2 sets of doors. There's 3 there. So if they just did one, it would look kind of.
Unless it was like a school specific one, like, or they, like, I don't know, like to only do one seems odd.
Yeah, so if they did the wall in that, like around the doors and the door frames, I think that would be easier to upkeep. There's many murals around the high school if you walk, so that's what I was going to propose, to steer them towards doing the wall around the doors, or leaving the doors their original maroon color, whatever that is.
And then they would come back to us with a revised drawing of their concept. The parking spaces, painted them. There again, I'd hate to see the kids paint them. We're in need of a seal coat up there and crack sealing in the next couple of years. So I don't think we'd want the kids wasting their time, and then we'd have to paint over, we'd seal over their nice painting. There again, if they'd like to do it, they're more than welcome to do it, but they're going to understand that it may only be there for a year or 2 if we seal coat the lot. We're not going to just try to save their painting. The next one's just a mural on the wall. This is outside of IT. There again, it's a mural on the wall. The door that they're showing is an existing door there that we do not use, because that goes into the server room of IT. So if they paint that door, it's no big deal. That door never gets opened more than probably once or twice a year if they have to bring equipment in. The next painting is the front entrance of the high school. I am not a fan or a proponent of painting concrete sidewalks. It makes them slippery, makes it a nightmare to maintain it. The first time we get on there with salt and snow blowers, we're going to destroy it. So I had mentioned to Aaron in our conversations, if they want to do something like this, I think maybe on the driveway going back to the football parking lot would be a better spot, just because it's on that hill. You would see it as you drive up through there. I think it might look a little bit nicer if they come up with something to do there with a DB logo or something like that. And then the next one's just there again, a mural on a wall on the courtyard. I have no objections to that. The next one I have no objections to. And the The next one I'm fine with. And then their kind of mannequin guy sitting there on the bench, the students will have to be under the understanding that this could get damaged and vandalized by the kids. That there again, we're not going to police the students from damaging their stuff, so it may not be the best thing there. So they do this every year, like Aaron said. There's murals, throughout the whole high school. We'll steer them in the right direction to come back with some other designs for those areas. Anything else?
No, so like the parking lot one, I'm just going to take back to the student, Mr. Jarvis, and just let him know about the potential that it could get covered if we decide to recode the parking lot. And if he says that he still wants to do it and he understands that it could get covered, then I'm okay with him painting the parking spaces. I don't find it. The only two that I said that we have reservations about is the door to the auditorium, the walkway coming to the high school, because it's just going to get worn down because of the traffic. The upkeep on it'll be too much. And then the mannequin, we actually were a little bit more apprehensive of it than Casey, just because I could see the potential for hazards.
I'm not there every day, so.
And just things to go wrong. So I'm going to sit down with that student and see if we could come up with another idea for location.
When you say hazard, like what?
Just, it's basically in the hallway. That is the bench that's right outside the cafeteria. So 3 periods a day, we have 300 plus students go into that room and out of that room for
I don't
lunch.
think it's going to last.
What's it
And if
made
it's-
out of?
I believe
Paper
it's like
mache.
chicken wire and paper mache.
Paper,
Oh, yeah,
basically
that-
paper
you know,
If it was
mache.
concrete, I'd say it's probably
Yeah.
less, but not, yeah.
So you're thinking they're just kids will just mess with it, put gum
Or
on it,
even just the
write on it.
300 kids in the hallway coming out of the cafeteria,
Smacking
Those arms are
it,
gonna
smacking
work in the
into its
toilet,
arm,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to try to steer him in a different direction. If that's really what he wants to do, maybe we can find a different location for it. So,
Like, do we ever go to them and say, since we know they want to do these things, like, is there any places like we would, like, we don't want to deal with this area, so paint it up?
I think that's why they did outside the nurses' suite back in the day, because of just all the kids coming down through there.
Yeah. I mean, like, you would know better than anybody, but like, what about those same kids doing it in other schools? Like, going to like the elementary schools and doing it?
okay.
Like, I'm just
If we
thinking.
run out of
Well,
spots, they
yeah, I
can't
know.
roll.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Or even better, making it like a teaching moment and let them lead younger kids to doing murals in their school.
Yeah, I know the main reason that they use the high school is because they do work on this during their actual
Yeah,
class.
yeah.
So you'll see them out in the hall if they're doing a mural with the ladder, and they'll have the drop cloth on the floor, and they'll be, they pencil on the design first
Yeah.
before they start filling it in. So
No, I mean, for those kids, it's like, it's schoolwork, and it's
Yeah.
also kind of nice to like
they have a big canvas.
leave a mark, like, 10 years later, it's still there. It's kind of cool, right?
Yeah,
Um,
and they do take care of the upkeep on the paper.
yeah.
It is nice to see high school mural because, let's face it, the last even 5 years have been pretty good. Almost institutional.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, like,
I'd like to see
that
them-
asked Casey and company, like, what
Yeah.
are some areas we want to, either lessen the drabness of, or like, hey, I know you're always looking for spots, here's a great area to do it, so that they don't feel like, the nose don't come as,
Mrs. Schreiner and I had talked, I think, last year, and it just got too late in the year for them to kind of organize what they wanted to do. So I think that's why you have definitely a lot more thought processes through this and a lot more options with this. So
Well, I think
we
we
should just defer to-
approved stuff, what was it, 2 years ago now? We had something else come through maybe a year and a half, 2
We
years
approved
ago.
the drawings last year.
Last year,
About
okay.
the-
Yeah, okay.
So those are the only 3 that I want to go back to
Do
the
they-
students and get a different idea.
do they have them in the middle school too?
They have a couple classrooms outside the art room. They did some like paint coming down the pole and across the floor and stuff, but I don't think there's really murals per se. I know Dane had the paintings done that he hung up and stuff like that he's hung up in the hallways of Amity. But I don't think mural-wise there's actually an actual painting on a wall at many other locations. So. What's that? Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't know you were there. Yeah, so, and part of this beautification project is too, and I forgot to print this information out, Mrs. Hogue has an opportunity to get some picnic tables from a Sonic. They are the center post, red with the 4 benches. The problem with them being red is that's not our colors, but it's not the end of the world. But that style bench, we would have to anchor into concrete somewhere. She had mentioned about doing them out front of the high school. Preston has a lot of reservations, and so do I, about in front of the high school and outside the art rooms in that area. As Preston says, we had a kid jump his bike off of a shed last year. So what would stop them from jumping their bike off of the picnic tables out front? They also would like to make a sculpture and do that out front of the office in that dead area underneath the overhang. They had thought about putting them there. We also have a lot of reservations about that. Congregating kids outside the principal's offices and everything, and with the windows being there and everything, we had to put a sidewalk in, we had to modify railings. It becomes an ADA issue. So our suggestion is going to be going back to her is if you'd like to do a sculpture on like brick pavers or something, you could put a brick, like a tan brick pavers and like a gray DB in the pavers if you wanted to do that underneath that area where no grass grows, no plants will grow. And then put the sculpture on there if they want to do something along those lines. Picnic tables, if the facility committee is okay with having red down in the football stadium, we would put them down in the football stadium on the concrete pad that George had put in, move the picnic tables that George has, move them up outside the cafeteria in the grass area there, and we would put playground mulch down instead of grass out there, and they can have an outside eating area outside the caf as part of a beautification project. The playground mulch isn't as dirty, less they would track into the building than your normal mulch of your houses. So there's some work that we're going to have to do on that end of it yet, and try to figure it all out. But
fence that area in, they would count on students running and so forth.
And that's something we're going to have to discuss of
Say,
how
do you
you
want
guys as a
students
board.
outside eating? Like, or would it be like more for
I mean, I don't
after
think it's
school
gonna be an
activity?
everyday thing, but I think if, the forecast warrants it and we're down there along with our lunch proctors, there's more than enough of us to facilitate them being able to use those if they want. The problem is you have 300 kids in a lunch.
Right.
At most, what's there,
There's 4 tables down there, so you're talking 16 kids, really.
It would be nice to utilize that area, especially.
Right.
You were saying about putting them in the stadium now?
We would put the red ones from Sonic in the stadium on the concrete pad between the bathrooms and the concession stand. We can anchor them into the concrete then.
I mean, we could paint them, couldn't we?
They're that rubber coated,
Oh,
so I'm not, we probably could. I just would have to find out for Sherwin-Williams what paint they recommend to spray them. That would be the only thing, so.
I think it's just 4 lag screws to hold them
It'd be
down.
4, yeah, it's a center post with the 4 seats on the outside. So we'll be bringing more information to you guys about that as we go along here. But we wanted to at least throw it out there to everybody, so when we come to you next month, it's not a big surprise. We should have some final answers, I would think, next month. So come spring, we can move ahead.
Is that stuff we need to approve? Picnic tables? Really?
Yeah, there's a cost involved to the picnic tables.
What, to anchor them down?
To anchor them down, and then we're going to incur the upkeep. Maintenance on them.
Paint them blue or whatever.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
That could be the art department.
Well,
There we
and
go. We had something,
I'm just thinking like, is it going to help with people buying more concessions during sporting events because there's a place they can go sit there? I don't know.
those benches that are there now are definitely used pretty heavy. At times.
When we get teams coming in like on
Yeah, like
Saturdays,
tournaments and stuff, the
tournaments,
weekends.
yeah.
I would think people who aren't necessarily overly interested in watching would be sitting over there and
playing cards.
doing what I don't know. Just thinking like it seems like it would pay for itself.
Right.
Sorry, anyway, I just thought it was odd that we had to approve something like that.
All right, update on facility, I'm just gonna kind of hop around here. Update on facility usage software. Scott Matz and I will be talking to them on Wednesday. We have the aerial diagrams of all the locations. I have them finished with numbering all the fields and specifically naming areas as per, like especially the middle school. You know, they have they have each tennis court numbered. Our facility, nobody knows that. So now when they'll go on, there'll be an aerial view of the entire middle school. And what I've done is it is labeled, gym is on this side of the building, cafeteria is on this side of the building, library. That's all I've marked. I'm not marking offices and stuff like that, just the areas that they would want to use. So if they need parking, they'll at least know what parking lot they want to reserve for that. I've named the parking lots, you know, main lot, gym lot, tennis court lot, so on and so forth, high school annex lot, and that kind of stuff. So, so we have that done. We have to send them the files, and then there's files they're going to provide us that will be the instructions for people to open their accounts, to log in and stuff like that. So I'm hoping if all goes well, I'll be able to roll this out at the end of the month. It's been a process. So that's on that. Proposal for high school roof replacement. I provided everybody a copy of WTI's quote. This is Tremco through the KPN contract, the same way we did the first phase. As you can see, the cost is $508,322.65. This is all of the flat roofs, the metal roofs that are currently rusting over the library. They have done 3 different tests of polymers, and none of them have stuck the way they want them to stick. They have stuck, but not the way they're willing to guarantee it. So they're going to go back and they're going to come back with another couple samples and do a couple more tests. That's why the metal roofing is not included in this, just because they did not want to quote it and not be able to. They don't want to take the guarantee and have to do it again in 18 years if they gave you a 20-year guarantee. They said it probably would have worked, but they just didn't have that confidence. So they said, we're not going to rush into this. We want to make sure the coating is correct. What's kind of ironic, it stuck where the rust is, it didn't stick where the paint is. It didn't stick quite the way they wanted to where the paint is. So they're trying to get away from having to etch the entire roof before they do the coating to try to save the man-hour costs. So the testing costs us nothing. So they can come out 20 times if they want it and do pull tests. What they do is they apply it, wait 2 weeks and come back and pull it. So,
And then this year, 1, 2, 3, and 4 were done, right?
This year we did 1, 2, 3, and 4, correct.
Okay. And then the other stuff is, where's the library? You said the library.
The library is M1, above number 6.
Okay, so just that. So
Front.
all the other stuff, the lettered stuff, is that?
That is all the roofing that was done as part of the performance contract, I believe, back in 07, 06, 05,
And that has a
08.
20-year warranty.
So that has the warranty with it. So, but M1, M2, and M3 are the metal roofs. Those are the canopy areas over the front entrance and the gym entrance. Area number 3 is the gym, just to give you a lay of the land. And M1 is the library. They would apply it in the same manner they applied this to avoid putting any screws through any wiring in the ceiling. But we would definitely like to get them on site the day after school ends. We had some noise issues while they were here, which we knew we were going to a couple days. They didn't realize the noise was echoing as bad through the drop ceiling, through the classroom, so they would defer some work until the afternoon. You know, we definitely want to get them on site and get them scheduled, get POs cut, and so they're ready.
And what do we pay for the stuff this year?
$528.
Is it roughly the same
Which, on this map, which sections was it?
1, 2, 3.
We did 1, 2,
1, 2,
3, and 4.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
If I walk it, I think there's more square footage, but there's less things that have to go around.
Okay.
There's a lot less units, and this is all one flat surface, except for area 7, it's a little bit lower. The problem was areas 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1 was about 4 foot higher than 2. 3 was the gym roof, so that was a good 15 feet higher, but then 4 was lower, because that's the wrestling room. So they had to mobilize things all the time, so it took, I personally think there might be some more square footage on 5, 6, and 7, but they can really kind of fly with this one. There's not a lot of stuff in their way. We had, I think, 15 air handlers in 1, 2, 3, and 4. I think we have 6 in 5, 6, and 7. And they're all kind of in the same area. So, there again, we definitely want to get that rolling through finance and get it board approved. And
We have the money? That's what I was, gotcha, okay.
Money's coming.
Well, there it is.
my wicket kind of got screwed up.
Okay, as we have discussed in the past, getting the 5-year capital projects budget in place, plan, if you will, in lockstep with our general fund project, or budget plan. So Casey and I met finally on Friday, and this is 16-17 moving forward. This is based on where we ended the 15-16 year with the transfers that I already informed you of, including the sale of equipment and vehicles, which is right now at about $155,000 with the sale of the last pickup. So if you follow down through with the cash flow, you can see phase 1 has been completed. Phase 2 is what Casey's describing here under roofs. And then these additional items down through are items that Casey is looking at that he's had quotes on, but he needs to get firm quotes so that you can make decisions on what direction you want to go. But as this 5-year plan is maintained, you will have in front of you exactly where you are. If something else comes forward that you weren't anticipating, you can say, well, we can adjust, we'll plug in this or plug in that. It is based on $500,000 transfer annually from the general fund. That's in your general transfer line there. Obviously, this year, I identified at year-end at audit the additional dollars plus the 155 coming over from the sale of equipment and the 150 from what was budgeted. But moving forward, year 17, 18, it's anticipating a $500,000 transfer. My intent is to keep this in front of you folks at every month, every meeting, and also the finance committee to make sure that everybody knows what's going on.
I have a question.
Yes.
So we should try to keep some sort of balance to replace the turf in 3 years.
Casey and I discussed that on Friday, the idea of earmarking an annual figure. Now, 2 years ago when Casey, a little over 2 years, when Casey arrived on scene, he was talking about needing to replace the turf in about 8 years. Well, that's in about 6 years now. So, what was the number for the total replacement then?
So it's going to be around 450, 500 grand until it's all said and done.
So if you want to say 125,000 a year or whatever, identify
replace the
down
turf?
here. Yes.
Oh, I thought it was, okay. I thought it was
But
more.
down at the bottom, you've got that slot there to plug something into. But that's the purpose of this. We've kind of encompassed everything in a general way, if you will. Mechanical infrastructure is pretty broad, but Casey's plugged in some numbers for this year. So as he sees things, he can encouraged him to fill in all 5 columns.
How
First
many-
year needs to be hard numbers. The other 4 can be estimates.
How many more phases of roof do we need? Is this it?
Just the metal
Other than the library.
coatings. And the metal coatings, when I received the proposal, when I brought Sensen again, probably a year and a half ago, they were looking around 25 grand. Now, that was just the basic primer coating done. Now that process isn't sticking the way Tremco would like, there may be some extra man hours in that.
Do they strip anything on the metal?
They're trying to get away from chemical etching, because then they have to kind of contain that in the downspouts. So it just becomes a very labor-intensive process.
What about, they don't sandblast anymore?
No, just because the primers have become so good. It's the primer is adhering, but their polymer's not adhering to the way they want it to the primer.
Question, Lauren, I mean, maybe you can answer this, maybe you can't. The $500,000, is that coming from the savings from contracting the services out? No?
Well, it's just a general fund transfer, Jim, from within the budget. Each year, as we build the budget, this year's preliminary budget shows a $500,000 transfer. Where it comes from is,
Us.
it's either savings in expenditures or increased revenue. But it's just the idea that the
A little
board
bit of
wanted,
it's a little bit of everything.
the board wanted a $500,000 transfer from general to capital each year. And that's why I built this out this way.
Now the turf, Frank LeMasters, if you remember that name, was a former Eagles football player. He works for Field Turf. He was out right before the holidays. They came up with some new processes where they can reuse the infill. Back in the day, they would just suck it all up, throw it away, and they would bring all new in. So he's working on a proposal right now to get an actual hard number for cost of the replacement, but he wanted to make sure our fill was in good shape. So we walked the field, we dug down a couple spots, and he's like, oh, we can probably reuse a good amount of this. So, of course, everybody's getting numbers from him right now with the holiday. He said we'll probably have it hopefully by the end of the month.
Are we moving forward with like the usage reduction of the turf? Like I think you had talked about, you scouted out some areas
Yep,
of like
we're gonna-
grass that we should be using, and
George and I are going to work on that now that his winter sports have kind of are in full gear here. The next couple of weeks, him and I'll be sitting down to pinpoint groups and what areas we're gonna make them use more or less to try to reduce the turf wear and tear.
and what about,
Somebody had told me that, I think it was Jim, had told me the lines in the track for the different events are not right.
I just heard that the other day when he mentioned it. So
Was it you that told me?
yeah, so I'm going to be giving George the contact for turf track and court.
what do you mean they're not right?
Well, maybe 100 meters, the start and finish line, maybe 101 meters, I mean, something
Right.
like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, where the hurdles aren't, the
Yeah, so
hurdles
we
aren't
can't
like
really
certain.
hold track meets,
How long have you been over?
sanctioned track meets, because
Is this a
the
new
distance
requirement?
isn't equal, so everything's, tenth of a second. So an inch or so either way.
If they're all running the same distance, isn't it?
But the scores are recorded statewide, almost national, so you don't want to be running an extra step.
Yeah, but have they been,
Well,
has
it's shorter than
have
you
they
get some
been
records.
that way since it was
From day one.
installed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that mean all the records are all now null and
We don't
void?
have any records.
All
I'm
right.
guessing our maintenance
Thank
bond
goodness we
is
have no
up,
records.
right?
There's
It's
no
not like we
warranty
can go
for
back
like
after the
that. Who
maintenance
painted those
bond.
lines? I mean, aren't they accountable for that?
I'm gonna ask Field
6
Turf
years
that
later,
and
probably not.
just try to,
Just walked it off.
That's just,
just see what we can do.
oh my gosh. Go figure.
Never ends.
Lowest bidder.
Gotta love it.
Use the lowest
If
bidder.
1,500 meters is really
Well, at least DB was,
1498.
at least DB was spelled right.
Well, so would you like a recommendation, I guess, from us to, like, or would you be looking for a recommendation from the committee for the roof?
Absolutely.
so that you can get it scheduled.
Yep, get the contract approved, get the solicitor, get all that stuff done, so we're not trying to do what we did last year, trying to rush through and get them here. I want to get on their calendar as soon as possible. And they want to get on our calendar as soon as possible because, like they said, we want to get in here and out of here before the kids come back.
What's from start to finish?
About 10 weeks, 10, 11 weeks. Yeah, it's a full, I mean,
They would hit that slot.
yeah, they estimated 12 when they did the first phase, and it was about 11 and a half until they were finalized. I have pictures. The roof was done absolutely first class. The guy that we had from Sensenig will be the guy doing our next phase as well. I've requested that. The on-site manager from Tremco, I've requested the same on-site guy. To the point, when they put the roof down, they put a lap seam over the seam. Okay, so it's about a 4-inch wide lap seam. When they put the walk-off matted areas where we would work at the units, if that seam and they'll put a seam like at a corner in a triangle, he actually trimmed the walk-off matting to be evenly the same distance away from that seam all the way around. Most roofers wouldn't take that time and effort to make it look that nice. When you walk on that roof, it is A1. It really is. So,
We got our money's worth.
yeah, we've had, I mean, other than the noise, Aaron, am I correct? We had 0 disruption, even though we were doing it during school. And when we had the noise, we went up and said, "Hey guys, can you do something else today?" They said, "Absolutely, we're sorry." So they were phenomenal to work with. They were great with the administration here at the high school. So yes, I would like a recommendation to the board to get it rolling.
What's the alternative? I mean,
The alternative is more money, and it leaks. It currently leaks. We have 3 classrooms now that leak, 240, I forget the other 2 numbers, but we have 3 classrooms that specifically leak every time, and Tremco's been out under their warranty to fix about 20 leaks.
And the one is
So
the
we want to avoid the Birdsboro situation where something gets in there, freezes and cracks masonry.
Correct. Correct. And it's at that point now when they go up there, you know, they find a couple pinholes, and of course, the more they walk up there, the more pinholes they're making, because the stones are up there. So if it's leaking in one area, it's going to leak as you walk across it. I mean, literally, I've told the guys, go up on the roof the least as possible, because the less we walk on it, the less disruption it is as well. So the leaks that we have are very minimal right now. So I'm not even going to call Tremco out for them, because they're, again, every time we've come out, they've fixed a bunch. But when we find some over here, then we find some over there. It's just because of people being up there.
Anybody have any objections?
It's a question of choice, I guess. Pay me now, pay
Pay
me
me
more
later.
later.
So we're okay with recommending that to the board? Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Tamara, you put on facility usage on the agenda, or did I type that in and not
You-
delete it?
You did.
I did, okay.
I just
All right.
copied
Then that's
yours.
that one, and discussion of requirement of custodial coverage, kind of the same thing.
Okay.
With Doug being here, he'll chime in, I'm sure, on this. Weekend events. In the past, we had our staff work the weekend events for the Daniels, like the youth basketball and that kind of stuff. Now there are costs incurred with that if we have custodial coverage here. Is the school board going to require coverage for all events? Right now, Doug, correct me if I'm wrong, it's kind of on an as-needed basis if they're not keeping the place clean. If we come in, if this staff comes in on Monday and the place is a pigsty, then we bring people in to clean up after they're done. If they're policing themselves very well, we don't do that. We currently, I don't believe, have a, per se, policy in place that requires it. So, is the board okay, is the committee okay with kind of doing as we are doing it now and addressing it? Or do we want to start letting the youth groups know that there'll be maybe a 2-hour minimum charge? Because GCA staff gets paid 2 hours to come in to open and then 2 hours to go home. There again, Doug has his staff come in, does some odds and ends while they're here, so it's not just a come in, open the door, and go home kind of thing.
Who
So
does the building check at the end?
we do no building checks anymore. We stopped that probably 2 years ago. Yeah, we stopped that about 1.5 years, 2 years ago because of cost.
Which we could tie that into custodial staff, or at least check it.
And that's,
I don't
if
want
they're
any
there,
surprise come in Monday when we
Right.
have a staff member
right.
minimal.
Now, the big groups like the cadets, we've required them to pay for a staff member on Saturday, and then 2 staff members come in Sunday, 4, 5, 6 o'clock to clean, so the place is clean for Monday.
I mean,
Um,
this is a policy thing.
I-
Oh,
'Cause I-
sounds like a Jeff thing.
No, it's more procedural, so who would not get a cleaner in on a weekend day? Because the cadets do, the
That's-
sporting events do, the plays, musicals, they do.
Yeah, are we talking about school-sponsored functions or
No,
like
you're talking
extracurricular?
about like the,
all functions, really. I mean, it's there's some school-sponsored functions that if the coach has a swipe card for lacrosse practice, they come in and we find bottles and stuff laying around. So, we're going to have to come up with something, guidelines or something, because there's volleyball, basketball, and stuff that practice on the weekends. What's that?
It says groups using the facility will be responsible for general cleanups following the event. The area to be cleaned will be under supervision of assigned personnel. That's
Right,
your
so
AG.
if it's trash, then it goes back to the coach or the assigned personnel. If it's an event, like a wrestling tournament or basketball game, then there should be someone there assigned to clean.
Right.
Just because it's not fair to the next person coming
That's what I'm
in.
trying to figure out. Like, is it when we, is it like a craft show versus, because we had said how we weren't charging people for that, and I think that was in here.
I think we are charging.
We said now we're going to
Right.
say,
And we
because
did-
the way I look at it is like if it's not a school function, I mean you could say, hey, look, we're going to charge you a 4 hour, 4 hours cost as a deposit, and if you clean up you police it yourselves and you clean it up, and we come in on Monday and say it looks good, we'll give you your deposit back. Otherwise, we're going to keep it and we're going to,
Well, there is added cleanup, like the Optimist Club over at the middle school. There is cleanup with trash. Even though they may clean, they're not taking the trash out to the dumpster.
No, but I'm just saying,
on the
like,
floor. So it's not fair to the staff that comes in that next Monday morning because they have their startup as they always do daily. So we charge like 2 hours in open closing. Part of that closing is bundling everything up. So
well, I'm just saying in lieu of having someone
they're
be here the whole time,
No.
But it almost sounds to me like it's more
this is the normal stuff,
school
like
stuff.
a
It's school
basketball
stuff.
game, wrestling
It's
match.
practices, and if they got wrestling practice or volleyball practice, and it's just them not cleaning up after themselves.
Right.
I don't think it's any different issue than, keeping the bands clean.
Right.
I mean, George shouldn't have to do it. I mean, it really
Right.
should be the coaches.
Well, I say, I think we probably need to establish somewhere where that gets, you make note of that, it gets reported, it gets sent to George, and the
Okay.
coach gets told, listen, if you can't clean up after yourself, you don't get that practice on Saturdays, or whatever, I don't know, or,
If it's a basketball event, like an actual game, we have people here, right? We have.
Yeah, and it's more for, because we have custodians at work,
Closed off that section.
correct, and it's closed off because we have the pull-down gates. It's more on the Saturdays for the youth basketball, the youth cheerleading, the stadium, after youth football.
Yeah, so this is not the school schedule
oh,
stuff.
so then if it's youth stuff, then maybe they get charged.
Yeah, that's what
2
we were talking
hours
about
if
before.
they're
We
used,
said we were
right.
going to charge people.
Okay.
The guideline
Or
also
like you said,
calls
you
out
get a
for at least
deposit.
one
They never required to
custodian
do all
on
that.
duty anytime the building's in use.
Right.
Okay.
It's there.
I just wanted clarity because that's the one thing I need to get on the software side of it. Just
For
to make
for
sure.
these groups that are, nonprofit groups or whatever you want to call them, I think Jeff's idea of here's a deposit. If you leave it in the condition you found it, we're not going to charge you. I think that's,
And that's, I mean, that's what we do, like where I work, like with the fields and stuff, because we don't charge, but we take a $250 deposit. And if we don't have complaints about you leaving your stuff around, you clean up your trash, we give it back at the end of the season. If we don't, and we have to clean up their stuff, then we keep it. And so maybe that's a way to go.
If GCA comes in and finds a mess, take a couple quick pictures.
Yes,
Send it
right.
along with the invoice.
Exactly.
that's exactly, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Because I think most of these groups will be responsible if,
And I
especially if
mean,
they know-
I'll be honest, are our dumpsters locked?
No.
So there's no reason they can't even, I mean, they can't,
Right,
we have
they
groups
should-
that take their
if we
trash
leave
out and put it in our
instructions-
I
dumpster.
know when I was part of Muhlenberg's youth sports, after football, we had to clean every trash can out.
Right.
Right.
We had to have new trash bags in. And the one time
Right.
we missed one trash can, and I got a phone call Monday morning, which was fine. I mean, we missed it. It's our bad kind of thing. But I mean, it was. We knew that.
You could give them
that was
an
a
instruction
rule.
sheet, like, here's your responsibilities.
Okay.
Right,
And if these things aren't met, we keep your deposit.
Okay.
kind of like a timeshare, right, before you leave.
I mean, that's motivation to do it, right?
Yeah.
Who's gonna monitor the deposit, take care of it?
I don't know. I mean,
Don't look at Nikki. I mean,
Well,
will that be
there's
the
only small.
business department?
It would be I think it would be a yearly deposit, George,
Yeah.
that we get from them, and then if there's costs incurred to clean up, that GCA says, hey, we had to spend 2 hours on it. There's a cost for that. We just deduct that from their deposit, and then at the end of the year, money left over, we give it back to them. If not, if we need more money,
Yeah,
we
but
just invoice.
to his point though, like, who's tabulating and,
We're handling the billing.
I said I would have to, yeah. we'll
And
get-
it's
so
not
as long
many
as you get
groups.
notified, you're good with
And
it.
there's not many groups.
That could roll over here.
Correct.
Say the key is going to be the notification process between, GCA, you, the business, or whatever.
Yeah, like if
stuff's
GCA
in-
comes in Monday and cleans it all up, right, and then says, hey, there was a problem, like,
That's why I say, take pictures and send them over to us. and
Yeah.
We'll take care of them with the
Yeah,
billing.
because I know Amity Township,
Let us know what it
when
is.
they had a couple baseball events in the fall, Monday morning Pam called and said, hey, how were the fields? I called Mike Marino and I said, hey, how were the fields? He goes, they were great. A little bit of trash in the trash cans, no big deal, but nothing was overflowing and stuff like that. So I said to Pam, just return the deposit. It's fine. So, like I said, it's not a lot of groups. It's probably 5 or 6 groups total that use our facilities weekly.
Right.
Like that. So that's that. Okay.
just making sure they're notified of the expectations and.
Yep.
Maybe just make a sheet up and say, the trash bin, the dumpster's here, whatever, take the trash out, whatever, and just,
And that's what'll be nice about the software. We'll have all of those things on that link, that it's all there, so they can't say, hey, we didn't know, kind of thing.
Okay.
So, because there's also on the software program, you can give them a checklist that they have to check off that they read the terms and
And
agreements.
agree to it.
And agree to it, so, okay. Last thing I have is that I gave everybody the architect's proposal for the design and sealed drawings for the F-wing, possible F-wing location of admin. For the admin move, I know Birdsboro has been a discussion point as well. So this is their proposal. We will, this would be full signed sealed drawings for F-wing. Just to kind of give you an overview, it would be using the kitchen area and the 2 cafeterias, the old cafeterias in the annex.
that's taking these guys out of here.
Student union and the study hall room, correct? The annex cafe.
That's taking your team out of here.
Yeah, on the drawings, it's called Annex Cafe A and B
So let's just say this is right, and it's $60,000 to do
for the design.
for the design, and then I mean,
On the second page.
The second page, the
halfway
estimate,
down, it says,
Yeah.
oh, is that where it is?
yeah, the estimated cost is 500 to 750 grand. Now, understand, part of that is making a boardroom out of one of the cafes that would then also be used for the students for Keystone testing, PSSA testings, or instructional areas and seminars and so on and so forth. So it would be a multi-purpose function.
Doesn't 10% of the cost seem like a lot? for
They're
an
basing it.
estimate?
They're just basing it
For
on
design?
square footage, and that's
For the design?
10%'s the-
Yeah, that's standard.
yeah.
10,
8% is the
10,
norm.
Yeah.
say 10 to 50, yeah,
Um,
15, yeah.
With going to Birdsboro, I think we're going to incur probably close to the same costs, maybe a little less, because the current HVAC system is heating and cooling only. I mean, heating or cooling. So for those multiple weeks during the spring and during the fall, when you have that changeover, I can't just turn the chillers on. I can't just turn the heat on in October. I can't just turn the chillers on in March and April. This year, I didn't turn the chillers on until probably the middle of May because we had a very coldish kind of spring, so I kept the heat on. And I mean, the teachers have scissors that they have, the half of a scissor that they use to turn the switch on and off on the units. That's how they control their classrooms when they get too hot and too warm. So the entire second floor would have to be renovated on the HVAC side to give the creature comforts for an admin wing. You're talking 13 rooms at the better part of a cost of probably, when I was at Wilson School District, we did a wing there for dehumidification purposes, and that was $385,000. That was 14 rooms. Long range, facility-wise, that's the F wing you're not using. You can make a really nice admin wing back there. That would be the admin wing for forever, for the most part.
I think
Birdsboro, we can do it as well, but I just don't know what the future plans are for the building. So that's
I
the
think that
part
is
of it.
one thing that we have to look at is, because we moved here, we rented, we moved here, now we're talking about, where, do we have a long-term future? I mean, and is the future, do we plan to keep Birdsboro for the next 30 years if we close it for students? Or if somebody came along, I don't know who anybody is, but if somebody came along and offered us money for it, then we sell it. Yeah, I guess I just don't want to keep seeing us moving if we should be looking at what's the long.
Well, the
the
decision's
long-term-
definitely more than just where do you want to put the administration, right?
Right, because
Like,
we're not selling high school, I don't think ever. Or at least not in the next 20 years, right? So, does it make sense? I don't know, but we shouldn't
Well,
just keep
if-
moving
if-
around.
let's-
We should
well,
have
like,
a plan.
Yeah, like if the administration's leaving this building, is this space going to get utilized? Like,
This space, by River Rock,
they want it for sure.
yes. We met with them the other day. They want this building.
They want the whole thing.
All the usables.
They want to use it. They want the building, but they don't want to pay for the whole building.
Yeah, so they want to rent 2 floors of the building
Yes.
and then,
Possibly have access to whatever they want when they want.
right.
But
So what about putting administration on the 3rd floor of this building?
No elevator.
Access.
What are you gonna do if
Public
you have
access.
somebody that with ADA?
Arnold County.
And you have
Laurel,
that-
did you say Laurel area?
You're gonna have a workers' comp claim the first time.
And it goes right back to him anyway. Just don't drop it. No, really. There is some thought. I
What's
talked to
an
Preston
elevator?
about this over at the high school in the back F wing of doing some academic learning space that could be done back there. So it's going to have to be renovated down the road into something. Once that kitchen equipment gets pulled out, and it's just 2, 3 really empty spaces. We can be really creative. Over in Birdsboro, the idea was to keep that as, and you're going to ruin my whole presentation tonight, as a community center,
Sorry.
admin building, preschool area that can be utilized. And there's a long list, and Casey sent it to me today, the work that needs to be done in that building. And that's why that building was chosen to be closed over Anacostia or Amity for it. There's a long, and there's some serious foundational structural things that are
We
going
have
on
a
in there.
wall, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it's cracking and the heat. If it's good enough for kids to not have heat on, Rob and I can survive over it, trust me.
Well, and that just, I
You
want to
know.
make everybody aware of
And
it.
I've been in
That's-
buildings like that before where you turn the switch, it's heat, and then it's off. But there's some structural things that need to be done over there. So even if we're going to sell it down the road for whatever, I would think whoever purchases it either is going to buy it as is or is going to require certain upgrades just to keep the building out of mothballs. And the feeling is if we leave that building and shutter it, things are going to go downhill real fast. So if we're in it, at least it's going to be maintained. And it doesn't have to be maintained fully as it would be if kids are in it. And then if down the road, 5-6 years from now, we go into the high school and somebody wants to come in, or something happens and the enrollment turns around here in the district, who knows what could happen. We still have a building. But on the high school side, we would like to go back there, but it's 3 raw empty spaces, and we could use a lot of it. We would like to do some programming in it, but we're not ready for that now. But 3, 4, 5 years down the road, we'll go.
If you're going to invest the money to do something, I mean, I'd rather see you invest in Birdsboro to fix up some of these issues and have the space occupied.
Yeah, we'd rather occupy that space because the moment we pull that last class out, pull the last desk, even if we use it for storage of equipment, we know it's going to get vandalized. We know that when you don't start turning the electrical on, the water on, the heating on, pipes burst, things aren't maintained, it just goes downhill real fast. So we'd rather be in there, Casey can come in there, work on things.
I think it's going to be a transition, just like it was at this building. Right? It was a big push not to try to sell the building and not utilize it. We were able to bring everyone over here. And I think that's probably your overall picture. I think it's going to be a little more viable for everyone.
how much is an elevator?
About 150 to 250 grand. So it's all said and done.
It's cheaper than doorknobs and locks. It's amazing.
To give a number that low. I can't remember
They
what.
get $2 million
We
for
get
it.
an elevator or we get doors?
For here, I mean,
If you go a
put an
3-story elevator,
an
it would be
exterior.
an exterior elevator.
Tower.
And the only real location you have is right over here. It would be that small little room that
Okay.
the water
Is there a
wells
requirement
are.
on the type of elevator you have to put in?
Stable. You got to bolt it to
Just
the wall.
one.
Does it have to be like a commercial, like,
Can you just put
freight
it on a
elevator?
share
or is
lift?
it-
No, it doesn't
One
have to be
person
real.
at a
It has to
time.
be a passenger rated elevator. It's
Yeah.
just they're
You got Frank. Gonna have a guy in
post
there
some chair to
cranking.
block and
Slightly
tackle.
better than the
Dumbwaiter?
dumbwaiter?
One person at a time.
Can you,
Right.
Yeah.
but can you just put the little seat on the stair
Could.
and then,
I
I
could.
don't know how you get the wheelchair up, but somebody-
So I'll go back to STV and and they said probably to do a design of Birdsboro would be, half the cost because we still need to get them involved to do the HVAC side of things.
Well, we don't have
I
to.
would-
Jim said he'll sweat.
Yeah, I mean, but it has to be done
Hey,
down
man.
I mean,
the
no
road.
offense,
But there's a lot of women here that won't.
Well,
Yeah. It's just sweaters.
but
One additional item here. When Jim first approached me back in November, whenever about architect of record, we had talked architect of record as long as I'd been here. I immediately approached your solicitor and said, we need to move forward. He thought project. And I said, well, the main thrust at that point was what Casey just brought forward at the high school. But then subsequent to that, I said, no, there's got to be a way that we could just have an architect of record sitting in the wings by the hour for design, whatever, not for a specific project.
select one.
So I made a couple phone calls, one being a local architect that had visited here a year ago from Wyomissing, I believe. But I also contacted Jim Thompson, who looked in every nook and cranny of all of our buildings. He said, yeah, I do this all the time. So he sent me over his document, AIA document he used. I sent it off to Brian. I got Brian's draft today on simply a architectural services agreement that we could put out in the form of an RFP to area architects and whatnot. We could get the responses, say, okay, we're going to hire entity A, and they would be at our beck and call by the hour. Jim wants a figure today on doing this proposal or that proposal. It wouldn't be project specific necessarily, it would just be, they would be available, much like our
I
solicitor.
say, it's just like your solicitor.
So I have that. I didn't send it, I didn't copy it. I'll email it to the committee in the morning and you can look it over, and Brian will be here in 2 weeks. And if you want to, we can move forward to get someone in place that, for that very purpose.
And we don't have to deal with low bid, because it's a professional service.
Yeah, because we have a lot of little questions
Right.
and what can we do with this area that come up. And it takes Casey months. I mean, really the whole process is, hey, what if we do this? By the time he gets back to me, I'm like, what are you talking? We did that 3 months ago. No, we're still going through the process. So it just would be nice if we could.
And you're gonna need sealed plans anyway if you do
Yeah.
any type of renovation, so you
Yeah,
might, I
we
mean,
reached it. And
you
the
have to.
individual, not just this type of project, but you're gonna bump up against something sometime. You're not always gonna be doing a roof project through weatherproofing technology where they already do that under the state bid, where you're gonna have, you're gonna be over $18,000, and you're gonna need design work and a set of specs.
Perfect example, the wall at Amity.
Yep.
The wall at Amity, where we have the material, but you need professional drawings and everything else to put in place, and that's just
You mean Birchville or Ram?
Amity, Dane.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Dane's wall of
Yeah,
fame.
yeah.
So I'll email this out in the morning.
What are we doing with the wall at Birdsboro? Anything?
The cracking one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
It's being talked about, thought
Okay.
about.
We thought, okay.
It's being talked about.
I bet.
Well, I'm just thinking, I mean, does River Rock want to have this whole building
They don't want the third
next
floor.
year? Like in September? So if we have to be out of here, I mean, that's,
It's more of an issue, Matt said, for him, for IT.
right, I'm
Anything
thinking you got
else?
IT, you got, and
He
but all
just-
that
he
work's
just has to
got.
hurry up. He just has to hurry up and get us ready. Because they have Wi-Fi there, right?
Well, his concern is the phone system. He doesn't have the network into place. I actually had to go to Over just to give me an idea of cost of pulling the fiber, data, phone, and then the power for the HVAC units, and their cost is roughly about 55 grand. Just based on past practices, okay, I'm gonna need a panel here to feed this, because they did the work at Wilson as well. So he's like, this is just like we did over there. This is what my costs were there. And he threw money in for, pulling fiber and pulling data and stuff. We made a bunch of assumptions over there because I'm not sure exactly where Scott has all his stuff. I said, figure the office up to there. kind of
Well, I'm
thing.
also
So-
just thinking ahead, are we gonna have the staff over the summer, or do we need, we just gotta make sure we get it all done between June and August.
It'll be busy. If we're going over to Birdsboro, it'll be a very busy summer move to get everything done. So, shall I contact STV a while, or are we gonna have the architect of record available? Because we're gonna need somebody to draw something up to get pricing.
Well, not just that, my understanding is that any of those mechanical or electrical changes have to be sealed.
Correct.
So you're gonna need somebody to seal them. So I don't know how soon you can get an architect of record. I mean, probably not till next month at a minimum, right? If you're putting out RFPs, it's gonna be
I'll ask
February.
Brian what is,
But-
if you
but-
put a timeline in.
But also, River Rock isn't pushing us out.
Okay.
We're moving out a lot faster than what I thought. I thought this was a 2-year move. So when it was brought up, can we get it done sooner? We can't. So River Rock's not saying, okay, September 1st, you guys are out. We're good. It's things take time to be done correctly. We could get out of here as we go.
So I guess if you got an architect on board in
I think
February,
River Rock would probably only need our space October, November, December, as
Yeah,
their
when school
student
starts and the kids
population.
start acting up
As
again.
their student population grows.
so you're
here,
probably
they need to
okay
expand.
if you
Yeah, we're
wanna,
okay.
if you don't wanna bug them again. Since
Well, that's all I'm asking. I just,
And even
I
if
told them,
even if we did it on a calendar year by December 31st, we were out, we would probably be okay. And they start to release January 1st or something. I don't know, I'm just saying. They're not saying, okay, we're going to bring 180
Like
kids.
some of this would have to be contingent on what the arrangement's gonna be with River Rock, right?
We also have to have a new contract with them.
Yeah, 'cause
If they're not willing to pull out the cash, I don't know. if
They
can.
rather pay cash than what the system is now.
They want to straight.
Yeah, when Laura and I met with them, they rather just pay cash.
Is that something Brian is going to?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. I discussed that with him.
In lieu of seats.
Seats.
Yes.
Good,
Because we pay now also. We do seats
Right.
and pay,
right.
which it's kind of counterproductive because the worse we are, the better we do. So.
Yeah, it looks like Brian was planning on turning this around in a month if you approve moving forward in this direction.
Okay.
One thing I like, he describes the district here. He says we have approximately 3,430 students and an annual budget of approximately $555,458,000.
Nice. Sweet. I want that budget. So I guess are we recommending to the full board then to move forward with the RFP too, I guess? Is that they want the, all right, so we can make that.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Are we okay with that?
RFP doesn't require negotiation with it.
With that budget, we would have sushi Thursdays.
Yeah, you would.
We would have- I don't
Yeah,
like
I don't
sushi,
know
but
sushi.
the kids want sushi, so.
Ugh.
Laura Mary, sushi
Close
Thursdays.
to site them and seafood.
Okay.
Any questions for me? Because I gotta get rolling here shortly.
Any questions for Casey on the board? Anything else from any members of the board? Any members of the public have any questions, comments? Okay, meeting adjourned.